You're listening to Parasearch Radio, news, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio. Parasearch Radio, broadcasting to the UK and beyond.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. You're listening to The Spectral Zone with host Caz Rooney.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Spectral Zone on Parasearch Radio. As always, I am your host, I'm Caz Rooney, and tonight I am being joined by Kerr from Rationalise, Team Impact. Hi, Kevin, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Yourself?
I'm good, thanks. And also Lee Smart from Twisted Paranormal. Hello, Lee, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Good. Now, tonight, bit of a bumpy subject, but we're talking about trust in the paranormal. Now, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but maybe it's just me, but do you think there's an issue with this?
There's a massive issue with trust in the paranormal. I suppose the big issue is no one sort of sees eye to eye, so no one actually trusts each other in that situation.
Yeah, not at all.
That's it.
I mean, obviously people have the differences, whatever. I mean, this show isn't about individuals or groups or any of that, but do you think competition is part of the problem?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a race going on amongst some groups where they want to be the first to find some sort of indisputable evidence of the paranormal, or first to get a genuine video of a ghost. But a lot of them, obviously, they've been in this race a long time, and they still necessarily haven't found anything to do with it.
No. And they're going to be in a long time more.
That's it.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, Lee, obviously, I've worked with you before. I've worked with Twisted Paranormal before. And you guys are quite enthusiastic and you're really into what you're doing.
Yeah.
But you're very much a team player. Shouldn't everybody be team players, really? Shouldn't we all?
You've got to be in there. You've got to be in this, I think. If you're not a team player, you're going to struggle. You've got to be willing to listen to other people and other ideas. It's hard otherwise, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, obviously we all work with different teams in different places and locations and whatever. You've all got to work together, really, haven't you?
Well, yeah, most of us have different ideas on how to do things as well. It's so varied, isn't it?
Yeah. But I think that's interesting because you learn things from other teams and other people. So that's a good thing, isn't it?
It's got to be, isn't it? Just the way other people investigate. It's good to see how other people are doing it. To better yourself if you can. To learn better ways of doing it.
I think that's what.
I'm always up for learning something better.
Well, this is it. That's what's important. Is this kind of like, if one thing I realised with Paranormal was at first I was sort of quite aggressive in my blog posts and sort of like everyone's an idiot and rah like a typical hardcore skeptic. And then sort of over time, the one thing I've realised is that actually if you educate, and you're just sort of, you're able to put your opinion on a back step and your belief system on a back step and listen to what someone's got to say about a situation. So I don't know, if someone's using the new Kinect cameras and things like that, you know, if they've got one, instead of going, oh, they don't work, you say, well, okay, why do you think they work? How are they working? What do they do? You know,
yeah, what have they done for you?
Precisely. Yeah, this is it, you know. And then it's basically one of those situations where you've got to kind of take into account the other person's way of looking at things. You know, they might not know as much, or they might know more. They might know more about something than you do, and actually they're ahead of you. Or they might literally just say, oh, I saw it on telly, it looked really good, so I'm using it. You know, and then you've got an opportunity to turn around and say, okay, well, you know, do you know how it works? Say no. So, well, or if you know, you explain it. So I think it's about, if you want that kind of trust to happen, you have to also expect it both ways. So you have to expect someone to question you, you know. And I think once the whole of the paranormal world get the hang of the fact that actually your opinion is just your opinion, it's not important, it doesn't affect your life, you know, let someone have their opinion. And then also, if everyone's doing that, you can also have your opinion, you know, and we don't end up just having a big internet argument or...
It seems to be hard to have an opinion, though, doesn't it, lately?
That's the problem.
If you try and comment and give your opinion, or like an educated guess on what it is, or whatever, like on a video or a picture, if you're not saying it's paranormal straight away, you're branded a troll or whatever. If you haven't got the same opinion as them, look out.
But that's the important part about holding back the belief system. You know, it's one sort of issue I have a lot is a few people kind of get into the paranormal because their family members have either passed or they've kind of had a traumatic situation that's brought them towards a need for the paranormal to be real. You know, like the other side to be real. So they come in with kind of all guns blazing that we're going to find out it's real and that's it. And then you end up in a situation where me as a skeptic will turn around and say, actually, there's a logical explanation for that because of this, this, and this. And what I'm actually saying to them is, yes, you've lost your relative or a close one, that basically you become the person who's just given them the bad news. And the reaction is anger and aggression and that kind of thing. And I think it's kind of control that as someone first accesses the paranormal world and first goes into it, that actually they might not find anything and there's nothing that's proven. So don't take that as there's nothing proven, so I'm going to prove it. You take it as, okay, so how far are we in now? You know, how's the research getting on? What level am I coming into? If that makes any sense.
Do you think some of these teams that put these ghost hunt on and take all these people to these venues, they got some kind of responsibility to sort of try and educate them a little bit while you're there? Because they just take them on these ghost hunts and then they're left to run wild with like cameras and God knows what.
That's it.
Posting all sorts of anything. Do you mean maybe they should be educated a little bit more? I know you're with them for a small amount of time to do an event, but maybe just sort of try and educate them a little bit.
There needs to be. That's one thing I find with sort of Corinne and Colin at Jamaica Inn is one thing I've noticed they do actually, they show you like, oh, look, what do you think of this? And it's like, oh my God, you know, it's definitely a ghost. And they say, well, actually it's this, you know. And to be fair, this is probably the first time I've seen it, to be honest. And they bring them in for events, yes, and they still get the excitement of that they're looking for. You know, they go into these haunted places, they want to be scared, but then at the same time they get educated about the fact that actually this light that's going off isn't caused by a ghost. You know, it can be caused by this, can be caused by that. You know, and that's brilliant. That's exactly what you need at that sort of entrance level to go, okay, this stuff happens, and this is similar to what you might see on TV, but there is actually rational explanations for it. And that
problem is, though, there's so many teams doing ghost hunts.
But it depends on
doing it
why.
Just for the money.
The money. That's it.
Yeah,
and
they're
that's
not interested in telling people truth, or you know,
they just want to pull out. They want to pay 200 quid for a venue and charge everyone 200 quid each, you know, and make as much money as they can, and then off they go. And that's one big issue. Sorry, go on.
One thing I do want to ask both of you. I mean, obviously there is issues going on, but do you think ego is taking over in the paranormal world? Really? Is it more about ego these days?
I say there is an issue of ego, and I think again that comes back to belief systems, and it's someone having this ego. Like I used to have a pretty big ego, I came into this as a researcher, so I went into the practical side from research, and I knew a lot more than anyone I met, and that made me quite big-headed for about a year or so. It was just kind of, well, hold on a second, how don't you know this if you're in the paranormal? Because I do, and I've been researching it for how long, Yeah. And I think a big issue I do see is no one seems to move forward from that time and sort of go, well, actually, we know a lot, but at the same time, we still know nothing really, or hardly anything. And there's always that learning curve. Every day that I do any kind of research, it sends me down a different route, learning more and more and more about different subjects. Yeah. And one thing I found as I'm quite young, for the amount of years I've been doing it, is a lot of people say, you meet a lot of people who are about in the 40, 50 years of age. They see someone who's a lot younger than they are, and they're like, well, kind of, what do you know? Well, I've been doing this for 25 years. I've been doing this for 30 years, and you think, well, if you've been doing it 30 years and you're still doing the same as you did 30 years ago, you're doing it all wrong.
You're doing something wrong.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And the ego on those kind of people is impenetrable. It's just absolute. You sit there for hours and you could argue and argue and argue, and they will just hold the wall up that they've been doing it longer and they know best.
But this is a problem, though, because if we have these trust issues and ego, and we're not really taking things forward, though, are we?
No, that's it. We just stay stagnant in one place.
Things aren't moving forwards in any way, shape, or form. I mean, right, Lee, you're doing an investigation. Like you said, you have a responsibility to the people there. If they don't know the equipment or whatever, you've got to try and educate them a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
About what they're using. Otherwise, what's the point in doing it?
Well, yeah, like Kev said, you've got to explain how things work and how they can be affected by other natural causes, and a lot of teams don't do that. A lot of teams are happy to get you in it and just take your money. It is hard work, isn't it? And it's not going to go forward unless there's a bit more educating done, I think. We just seem to go around in circles. We're not gaining any ground on it, are we?
No, we're not. I don't feel we are anyway.
And that's what that ego side does. It doesn't matter what
spirit boxes are made, what lights are made, none of that is getting us any closer to the truth, is it really? None of it. Because nobody's using it in the way that it should be used, like.
That's exactly the problem. There's money to be made at the paranormal, from these guys who designed this kit and put it out there, like the Ghost Ark, and just say, right, I want 200 quid of your money and I'm going to send you the best ghost hunting device in the world. And I think it was a prime example of what a businessman would do. Precisely, if a businessman looked at the paranormal world and said, how can I monetize this? That's bang on, and it's playing on the gullibility of people who want this kit to be able to do this. Their belief system's telling them this is going to be the best way, and it costs a lot of money, so we're going to jump in, and it's caused this kind of, looking at EMF, EMF meters in the paranormal, just throw them in the bin. There's not a lot of research to say that EMF creates hallucinations and things. There really isn't. And there's no meter on the market that could actually reach that frequency for an EMF to make that happen. So EMF meters have just sort of grown around from watching TV, etc. So they need to be,
of course, and
pushed to one side. This is it. But still, these days, within the last couple of months, a brand new super duper EMF meter that's doing exactly the same as the world's cheapest one, but it's jazzed up and sold for 250 quid a pop. And people buy it, that kind of gullibility with it. They just say, oh my God, it's worthwhile.
The thing is, if you two guys weren't in the paranormal at all, mm-hmm. You were just Joe Blogs on the street, but you wanted to go along to an event, right? Yeah. And you looked at the paranormal community now, would you actually bother going to an event?
I reckon I would, because the events are so wrapped, the event sort of runners, should I say, are so wrapped up in making that experience paranormal. Yeah, they are doing anything and everything, and it's even if you watch TV, because the first thing anyone does when they want to go to an event and they go, oh, do you know what, I'm going to look this up, and I'm going to go on YouTube, and I'm going to look at like Most Haunted, and I'm going to look how Ghost Adventures are doing it. And then they go in and they're expecting to see a K2 meter, or they're expecting to see a tri-field or anything. They want to see night vision cameras, and they want to see stuff happening. So, hey, I'll tell you what, we'll chuck all that stuff in. Happy days. We'll chuck a Ouija board down. Why don't you try a Ouija board? Oh, I know it's scary, but we're going to get this guy to give you protection so you can do it. You know, and it basically ends in a situation where people leave going, I've experienced a ghost. Brilliant. But in that whole time, never once would one of them, as Lee was saying, explain that actually that it isn't paranormal. There's actually a scientific explanation behind that, or there's another explanation as to why that works. You know, they just say...
They want that, do they? They want people to keep coming back.
Precisely, and they want people to leave and go, that was the best thing ever. You want to go with that group because we experienced this, and this. And then that'll either work to the group's name or it works to the location name.
Well, that's kind of feeding egos as well, isn't it, then?
Oh, that's where it becomes, we always get the best results with the way we do things. We always get orbs on our cameras. We always get bleeps on our EMF machines. You know, it becomes that point where people think they're an amazing investigator because they're getting these things happen on these machines that actually don't work, which unfortunately is that's where the ego comes from.
Pretty much all the devices they use, really, isn't it?
That's it, you know, and I haven't come across a device yet that's kind of made me go, oh, wow, you know, actually this is very much controlled and it's still happening, you know, this is intriguing.
Well, I mean, this won't make me a popular bunny, but, I mean, with all the groups fighting and arguing, and this one wants to be the best and that one's the best, and do you think people are actually forgetting why they got into this in the first place?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely.
It's started to be more about likes on Facebook. And
that's it.
Your reputation, and, you know, you want people to think, like I said, think you were the best.
Yeah.
It's got into that state, hasn't it? Like,
what can we actually do about that?
Well, personally, I'd look at, certainly, especially with the event side of things, I look into like governing bodies and terms and conditions and things that can basically dampen things before they get a bit too out of hand. And a lot of that is obviously, when you say you're looking at a governing body, just someone who ensures that, I know they're talking about recently about mediumship, that they were going to put a governing body in place for mediumship. But it's very difficult when you can't prove if someone's doing something or not.
Yeah.
But obviously in situations where, you know, people are making like, I don't know, more than 50% the cost of the venue or 50% profit on the cost of a venue, that kind of thing, to keep people...
To be a way of policing it somehow, isn't it?
Precisely, you know, so they can only, if they pay £1,000 for a venue, you know, and that's come out of their own back pocket, they can only make £1,500 from that event. You know, and although there'd be a lot of people who's willing to hang me for saying that, it would be one of those situations where you can't go in and say, right, yeah, we can charge £400 a person because we've got, you know, it's a bit over the top, but, you know, sort of £100 a person because we can guarantee you ghosts.
Yeah.
You know, and
but then again, you saying that now, right? If somebody's going to moan about what you just said, then, right? They're in it for the wrong reasons. They're not in it for. They are in it just to make the money. They couldn't care less about what's found or any good evidence, or they're just not interested.
That's it.
No matter how much they say they are, if they are more worried about how much they're going to get out at the end of an event, they're in it for the wrong reasons.
That's it.
Well, that's an issue as well then, isn't it? Because that's never going to move the field any forward if everyone's worried about what they're going to make.
When it all becomes about the money, you know, I was thinking the other day, I've been, how long's Power Show been now? 5 years, I think. In that 5 years, everything I've ever done, I think I've been paid for a talk, you know, a conference talk once, but that was pretty much it. That's all the money the Paranormal's ever made me. And it's one of those situations where I don't think I could accept payment, you know, for what I do, because one, it's a hobby. It's probably a bit more serious than I probably need it to be, but it is a hobby and it takes up a lot of time. But I wouldn't expect people to pay me to go to their house and look at anything, or pay me to go to a venue or a location, for them, it'll be okay. If you want me to go, that's not a problem. And if there is a donation I've got to make to something, then fine, that's what I'll do. But I think within it, it's a lot of people get into it and go, do you know what, I really enjoy doing this. I need to make as much money as I can from it. And that's when they lose the reason that they've ever stepped into
it. Like what they're doing it for, or what they started doing it for.
That's it. They just become, do you know what, at the end of the month, I've got to make my bills, so I don't care if I charge 80 quid a head. I've got to do it.
I started up in teams doing investigations. I did with like guests and stuff. But it got to the point where I didn't want to do it because I wasn't spending any time doing what I wanted to do.
That's it.
Which was investigate, really. When you're showing people around and trying to keep people entertained, and I just thought, no, it's not for me. I can't do it. I want to be doing this properly and investigating. And that's how it should be. If you're in it for that, that's how it should be, shouldn't it?
Well, I mean, I'm actually in the same position as you found yourself in, Lee, where I actually announced that the Chocolate Factory in October will be the last one that I'm inviting the public to come along to, because I feel like we're wasting time. I'm not doing what I should be doing, which is investigating. As much as I love
you're spending your night walking.
As much as I love meeting them all, and I want to concentrate on getting some hard evidence. And
that's another thing that kind of has caused, say, a stop on proper investigation. But the issue with it is obviously with the events teams constantly trying to find these locations and constantly going to these guys that we can pay you X amount a night. When it comes to, like, gone are the days of turning up somewhere and saying, oh, just to let you know, I'm paranormal investigator. Have you had any paranormal activity here before? Is there any chance I can investigate? And they go, yeah, fine, that's no problem. In you come. And now it's 1,200 quid, minimum of 17 people. And you're like, I'm talking about just me, And it's sort of, it's become quite common now. Anyone with an old house, to be fair, looking at East Drive, anyone with a house, a terraced house, can claim paranormal activity and then start charging people to come into the house.
Yeah.
Do you think that's, I mean, obviously we won't go into specific locations, but some
sorry,
some locations are notorious, and you see that there's arguments about them all the time as well. So that's building up another level of mistrust with the people who own the location, isn't it?
But that's exactly it. It becomes.
Is it about the evidence?
Can you, at the end of the day, can you trust someone who is making money out of a paranormal situation? And
that's a very good question.
It's one thing I look at almost instantly when I see a haunted location put some evidence out into the media. The first thing that comes through my head is, why are they doing that? Are they monetizing that straight away? Are they expecting people to come and pay to be there? Is the business struggling? Is it always a big thing? Especially when you see new pubs crop up, someone's bought into the pub, they've got a 6-year lease. After a year, it's not making much money, but it's an old pub, and they've heard that down the road's another pub's claiming to be haunted, and there's groups paying every night for that.
Yeah.
So how can that's it? How can you trust people when they can just turn around and say there's a ghost in this house? They say, well, how do you know? Because I saw it once. And then the believers, the big hardcore believers, can go in and they can come out with evidence that isn't actually paranormal and say to everyone, I found ghosts there. And it just builds until next thing you know, you got like the UK's most haunted location.
Well, I mean, Avril Griffiths is in the chat room, and she said, I understand some locations rely on the extra income to keep that property running.
Oh, that's fully understandable.
Things. I mean, it's fine. The way I'm looking at it, it's fine covering the cost to keep the place running. It's fine you're doing it to make a profit.
Yeah, it becomes a business in that sense.
But it's not so much the business that the property. Then the owners of the property is the people who are hiring it. They're the ones, then, aren't they? It goes from them to the people hiring it for events.
So if any venue turned around and said 200 quid a night, then everyone's going to jump in and say, yeah, happy days, I'll do that. I'll pay you 200 quid, but I'm still charging my customers £60 a head.
Yeah. Well, Richard Clements is in the chat room and he's asking, do ghosts only haunt famous venues?
I've had that conversation a few times. So it seems that they do, But as I say, if the what's the way to put it? If the folklore behind ghosts is true, there should be ghosts everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, you saying that now, I had a conversation with a guy far away from where I live. He's in a team. We were talking about places to investigate, and he said he will only go to places with paranormal activity being reported there. I said, well, what's the point of that? Don't you want to go to somewhere and find out if there's anything there from scratch without being told what's there? And
well, put it this way: you're in any situation, you know yourself as an investigator. Someone asks you about it, or someone says to you, "Say, oh yeah, I do paranormal investigations." 98% of the time, someone's got a story, and those stories don't tend to be like, oh, I was at Woodchester Mansion, or I was at wherever. It's I was at home, it was at night, or I woke up in the middle of the night, or I was at my friend's house. And that's the majority of those stories are not in these big locations and these old haunted castles and things. They were, down the road at Jane's house or whoever's. There's not actually any sort of bigger situation where these haunted castles have got more ghosts, because a lot of anecdotal evidence comes from just people in their houses.
Well, I mean, say somebody was having an issue in the house. I mean, going back to being trustful and reliable. You may not agree with me, but I think if somebody's asking for help, then they should get help. They go to someone they believe is reputable, then they should be given that help for free. They shouldn't be charged.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
But you do
and that's
think
the way I look at it. I've always looked at
charged.
it. It should be free.
It's and the thing is with that as well, with the sort of residential investigations, I think you need to be very careful with residential investigations, which a lot of teams don't tend to be.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to a vulnerable client and a situation where they could be suffering from some serious mental health issues. And these individuals go in, and to be fair, I'm not saying people go in there on purpose in the way they do, but because their sort of belief system is taken over, and they go in and they tell these individuals that there's ghosts in the house, and that person is his temporary authority, and that's where there's a lot of breakdown in trust for the client. The client has to trust that individual, and trust that individual is going to come to them not only for their safety, not only to look after them if they are vulnerable, as in take their I forgot the word for it now, but basically to ensure that they get the right help and they're not just told there's a demon in their bedroom and sleep well, see you later.
Yeah.
So it's the trust there and the maturity required to do that, I don't think is within the paranormal world as a general thing. There are good investigators out there who can go to these houses and know exactly how to deal with the issues and get people in touch with the right people. But a lot of teams, especially newer ones, go into these houses and go, I'll get my night vision camera and my EMF meter and we'll communicate with this ghost. And that's what we got to be very, very careful of.
Well, Karen's in the chat room as well, and she said, but who is qualified to do the home ones? So
what I find, when I first sort of joined with ASAP, and I was told about, the code of ethics and things that I'd previously thought of, but really hadn't put them into play. And I would say to anyone, if you ever get the opportunity to go on the investigator training course for and do it, it's very easy. It's not difficult, but it really puts into perspective the damage that people can be doing during these investigations in residential houses. And what you need to kind of think is, like with me, I'm a mental health first aider. I've only done that in probably the last year and a half, but I've been doing residential investigations for sort of 6-7 years. So it's kind of going in with a maturity and saying, okay, is this person mentally ill? Is this person looking for attention? Is there they're an ulterior motive behind why someone needs that situation.
Yeah.
And
you would guarantee most of the teams that go in and do these houses don't even think of any of that.
no, they literally go in looking for ghosts because they want to be, again, we go back to ego, they want to be the ones to find the ghost. And it's a very odd situation. You know, if I walked into a house, and I have walked into a house, and I won't mention too much about it, but I have walked into a house and a book come flying off the shelf during the initial interview. And I didn't flinch, luckily, and just said, okay, no problem, just write it down as a note. And the next time I went, as an investigator, I investigated why that might happen, and I actually found the client's young son behind the sofa pulling a fishing wire that was within the book. So there are strange reasons why people will call you to their house, and it's not necessarily just for a ghost. It might just be for company. It might just be for attention. It can be
mental issues. It could be anything, really.
Precisely. I've seen a whole plethora of the stories I could tell, but I work on quite a good confidentiality agreement. So.
Well, Kenny is in the chat room, and as he said, paranormal teams are often looked at as authority figures when entering a private residence, putting too much influence in the hands of people not qualified to deal with psychological issues.
100% correct.
Okay.
And then I'd agree with Kenny any day anyway, because Kenny's absolutely brilliant at what he does. This is the exact issue. Especially even before I did the mental health first aider course, which is it's a 3-day course. It teaches you about spotting the symptoms with various different mental illnesses. And if anyone's out there who thinks I want to be a serious investigator, I would say get on that training course. You know, it is accredited. It is a actual course. It's used within professional bodies. But it's worth doing, because before that I had a very good idea. I used to study these things quite a lot, and I had a good idea, but when you actually sit this course and you go, okay, well, you could find an individual in this situation, you can learn how to contact crisis teams. You know, you could have a situation where you think this person is suffering badly, and nothing I say is going to change the fact that they are seeing a ghost to them.
Yeah.
They're seeing a ghost or a demon or something's happening to them, and to them it is 100% real. Now, if you go in and you turn around and say to that individual, oh, 100% yes, because my K2 meter bleeps twice when I ask it to do it twice for yes. You know, so we know 100% this is a demon and it's here to attack you. And then quite literally they pack up their stuff and they go. And it's like, you've just turned to a vulnerable person.
What you like now, we'd off by.
That's it. You've validated everything to that individual, and then you're going to leave them alone in the house with it. And it's like, it's disgusting to do that. It really is. It's unbelievable that people get away with doing that.
I seen the team start up. I think it was about a year and a half ago. I seen the team starting up, and they started their page up and everything. And within a matter of days, they were advertising for house investigations. If they knew anybody the house was haunted, they do house investigations. And it's crazy. After like a month from starting.
That's what we were saying with that intro. Like, the best part is to sort of have that introduction from an educated point of view and educate the next lot who are coming through without them just diving into the usual sort of media stuff. Because you can educate them to realise, because what they're thinking in their head is that people live with ghosts and is haunted, and they live with them happily, and, you know, it all goes totally fine, and every day the door is open for them, you know, and they sit down and have dinner, and the ghost is sat there having dinner as well, and everyone's happy, you know. So in their head, they're thinking, we're just going around to film this and to go, oh, look, we found a ghost. But they forget how involved that whole situation is. You know, you could be there for one initial interview, which, to be fair, is a high percentage of what I do is initial interview, and within the initial interview I can point in the right direction and say, this isn't this situation, it's for these people to deal with.
You could usually tell in the interview, in that first interview, what the situation is like.
The most important part is that in that initial interview you can usually guess pretty quickly of exactly what's happening. You don't, as an investigator, don't jump the gun straight away and say, oh, I know what this is, that's sleep paralysis, that's what's happening, because I know. You really have to analyse the situation and see what's happening. But if you're in that sort of situation and you, I've lost my train of thought completely. So
Kerry's actually brought up a really good point, though. She said, should any team that is approached by a private client be referred to ASSAP or SPR in the first instance?
I don't think they would handle it well. This is another thing which is quite intriguing, because in the ASSAP there is a great deal of believers.
Yeah.
And it's, what's the way to describe it? That's good, because the believers go in and they learn these basics, and all you need is these basics, these small things to realise, and then you're okay. You know, you've got a general gist, and then you need to build on that. So you're building on decent foundations. But if you push someone who just come into the paranormal with an idea that you're going to use the night vision cameras, the EMF meters, and everything's going to go bleep and things are going to float around the room on your first investigation, you're going to end up in a situation where you walk to the SSAP and they turn around and say, well, actually, no, this is how you do it. And they'll completely reject the idea of it completely. You almost guarantee it. As soon as that's put forward, because that's not what they're looking for. You know, that's not the reason they're in for it. They're not there to help people and everything else. They want to prove that the paranormal exists. And if you follow a scientific method, if you follow a code of conduct and a code of ethics, you will struggle a lot more than if you just did what the hell you wanted to do when you wanted to do it.
Well, Lee, I'm going to ask you this first. Do you think, I mean, when it comes to the public and it comes to like this, building up trust, people knowing who they can trust within the paranormal field, do we need a governing body to regulate all of this so they can point people in the right direction?
It would be a good idea, wouldn't it? It would be a good idea if they were a governing body that people could contact or speak to about it. And maybe they could keep an eye on the way teams are working as well, to try and bring some sense to it all, really, because it's a little bit up in the air, isn't it, at the moment?
Well, I mean, there is a large amount of teams. There's a large amount of teams.
There's new teams every day.
Yeah, there is. There's hundreds and hundreds of teams. So how do people know who to trust?
Well, that's the problem, see. If they are going off Facebook and things like that, they're looking for teams with likes and who's doing the most stuff, and that's not how it works, is it? If you go for the people with the most evidence, you're going to go and trust the people with the most evidence. That doesn't mean that they know what they're doing, does it? And it doesn't mean it's proper evidence either. It's just, like Kev said, lights beeping and all that stuff, and that's what people like. That's what they seem to think is the real paranormal, like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, going back to teams and whatever, I mean, this isn't going to make me popular either. But all the amount of infighting within the paranormal community and the teams, what can we do to stop that? It's getting ridiculous. It really is.
Are you going to be able to stop it? That's the thing. I don't think you could stop it. There's too many people out there that think they know everything.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what you know, they know more. And you're always going to bang heads of them. And there's plenty of teams out there exactly like that.
The easiest way is follow scientific method. You know, at the end of the day, there's no trust required within the scientific method. It's all peer review. It's not down to just trusting one individual that they've got it right and that's how it works, and it works every time. You know, it's if the paranormal world actually looked at what they were doing seriously, and they on a basic level, the first steps are just to allow themselves to be able to critically think. So that basically, if you're allowed to critically think, then I'm allowed to critically think. So I can look at your work and say, well, actually, and they can look at my work and say, well, actually, and because I've got that, what's the word? You know, I'm allowed to be able to do that, then I should also be able to accept that will come back.
I don't think a lot of them can do that.
That's exactly the problem. That is exactly the problem.
It's like me sending you that video this morning.
Yeah.
Just see what you thought about it. I sent it to a few people to see what they thought about it. You know, I wanted feedback on it, really. Just, you know.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what I was told. I wanted to know what other people thought of it. So, you know, and it didn't bother me.
That's the thing. You just need to be able to. I mean, what is it? This is going to make me sound like some sort of toff, but Aristotle, what is it? Is a mark of an educated mind. What is it? It's a mark of an educated mind to entertain a thought without accepting it. And that is exactly what the paranormal need to be able to do. They need to be able to talk about a viewpoint and a way someone looks at it, and they need to expect an answer that might not agree with the way that they believe it should be.
And if you're going to comment on something or give somebody an opinion on something, back it up. Try and back it up with with a bit of straight thinking. Like, you can't just say to somebody, "Nah, that's dust," or
that doesn't suit what I wanted to hear. So how dare you say it?
Yeah, and that's what you get. That's exactly what you get. Back it up with something, a bit of common sense, and that's what the problem is as well. There's not a lot of common sense, I don't think.
But it's funny we say this within sort of the paranormal community as well. Is even in the skeptical community, and this is a group of scientific thinkers and people who, quite frankly, some of the best minds there are, they still argue over points. But the difference being is they argue over the point and they go, well, actually, and they say, oh, well, how do you know you're right? Well, actually, I've done this experiment and I've tried it multiple times. It doesn't work. And that's the difference. Is this actually? I think you'll find that I'm making this point based on what I've done and what experiments I've done in order to show you that this is wrong, or experiments someone else has done that has been, again and again repeated. So we do this in the paranormal, but we do it with no backup. We just say, and some skeptics do it, where some skeptics go, well, ghosts aren't real. And it's like, well, you're a cynic. You're just saying ghosts aren't real, full stop. You need to think of what a ghost is and what is actually within that situation. So if someone says a ghost is a person who's passed over, where other people might say a ghost is an atmospheric anomaly, or a ghost is I don't know, a vehicle. It doesn't, like, whichever their opinion is.
Yeah.
That's what's important with it. It's someone's opinion. They say, "Oh, ghost." Let's just say they say a ghost is a car. You say, well, actually, I know it's not, because over X amount of time we've done these experiments to show that a car is a car and it's not actually a ghost. That sounds like a really simple way to put it, but it's it's that situation. We know that a ghost isn't a car because we know exactly what a car is, and the research has been done, and we see it all the time, and it shows again and again and again that is a car and it's not a ghost.
And you have to take that on board and
get on with it. Yeah. If someone walked up to you and said, "Look at all these ghosts on the road," you'd be like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And that's basically the paranormal community as a whole. When they go in and they say, "This is a ghost," they're not thinking through what they're doing.
Yeah, and they're not willing to listen to any other.
Precisely, it's like the crazy guy in the village who's pointing at the tree saying it's a demon, and when you say it's not, he beats you up.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, can't really avoid it. Really, I really can't avoid it. But with certain situations in the past few months, the paranormal communities took quite a hit because of a certain situation where a lot of people lost a lot of money. I'll say that way, okay. So how are we meant to repair that if all the groups are fighting between themselves?
So
not pulling together.
No, not at all. This is the thing. That's what I said before about a governing body on events. And if you had a governing body, it wouldn't be the old social media slander. They owe us this, they owe us that. They said this, they said that, and they say, no, I didn't. And it goes backwards and forwards. That basically, if you had a governing body above these events teams, that, okay, you still had to get your insurances, fair enough, but you also needed to be a member of this governing body to do it and actually retain the public liability insurance to do it, as well as even terms and conditions prior to the event. So prior to you booking, you go through the terms and conditions to say that if you pull out of this event in blah blah with 5 days notice, or within 5 days' notice, you still pay £30 of whatever it was, great.
Yeah.
And the same way as if they, for uncontrollable reasons, they have a situation where they have to pull out the venue, they will refund in full up to 2 days before the event. That kind of thing, some sort of guarantee, some sort of legal documentation that people agree to.
Yeah, they
prior,
need something, don't they? They need something
precisely.
to be done, like.
And and then all you really find nowadays is you've got Joe Bloggs goes out, walks up to a haunted venue, says how much to rent it for a night, how many people am I allowed? They ring insurance company, they pay £15 a month or whatever for public
liability insurance.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a long day. So public liability insurance. They've got their insurance certificate. The venue responsibly asked for their insurance thing to protect themselves. They go, okay, happy days, brilliant. This person charges £100 a head for people to go. That's if they've gone to the venue, shall I say. And basically from that, they go, okay, right, I've made X amount of money. But the day before, they decide they can't be bothered and they don't even show up. And the only thing that stands in the way for that individual who's paid that money is if they paid it, say, through PayPal, and then PayPal can take it on. And if you had a governing body, they could go to that governing body and say, actually, this individual who's registered under you, under a certain number, has actually just taken all of our money and no one can contact him. And they take it on, looking at it from the right perspective, not just another investigation as PayPal would do.
Yeah. What do you think, Lee?
Well, yeah, he's right. It is. It's too easy for somebody to set up, get these events running.
Yeah.
Just get a little bit of a following in there. That's all they got to do. Start taking people's money and they disappear. It's that simple. They only got to put a small deposit on these venues to keep them. But by the time everybody's caught up with them, they're gone. They've taken everybody's cash and they've done a runner. It has to be a way of, slowing it down a bit, I think, and stopping them doing this. And like Kev said, keeping a closer eye on them.
Yeah.
Stopping them charging so much money. And
well, I mean, you saying that, Ian Haywood is in the chat room and he said, as long as you have commercial groups charging for events, you will always have unscrupulous people. The best ones are those claiming to be non-profit. If you take more money for an event than you spent, then you're making a profit. Well,
Ian there now has just commented. We don't do events, but we've been asked to do a charity event for some people have taken over an old miners' institute, and there's a bit of reported activity there. But so what we've said we're going to do an event for them to raise money.
Yeah.
But what we've said we're doing is the people can come and do the event with us, but they're going to be part of the team for the evening. We're not going to be doing none of the Ouija boards, the table tipping, none of that. It's going to be, they're going to come and do an investigation. And that's the only way we're going to do it. So we have said we're going to do this to try and help and raise some money for the building. But that's the only time I think we're ever going to do events, really, because it's not for us, And the only way we'll do it is if they're part of the team for the evening, and that's the only way we can do it, really.
The thing I find is I don't think there's any harm in making profit from doing an event in that sense. I think there's harm from making profit out of doing an actual investigation. Sort of going to somewhere and saying, "I'll investigate, but you have to pay me £400." And then I'll come in and then I'll give you a certificate at the end of it to say that it's haunted, which actually, unfortunately does happen. It's basically, if there is a business that wants to take members of the public to haunted locations because they're looking for a bit of a thrill ride and they, we all pay for computer games and that's just the same, you're getting the full 3D interactive experience instead. So it's I don't think there's any harm in a company that's organised their insurances, organised the snacks, organised everything, like the hot drinks and the entertainment, the supervision, all that lot, make money from it. There's not a problem there at all. The issue is when you start making...
Kev, it's an investigation, isn't it?
Precisely, the investigation, and that's it. It's that you want to go and do that and you want to think, you go and do it, but you cannot turn around after that and say, I've done an investigation, because it's not a real investigation. But you should make money from doing it, because it's work. There's a lot of hard work to do it, and it's a lot of hard work to organise these things, and that's fine. But when you're turning around and each night that you're in any location, you're making $1,000 in your back pocket after tax, if you even, follow the usual tax rules when you do it, you're making a big wad of money out of it, and that's when it gets too much. That's when it needs control.
I think
definitely.
Karen says in the chat room also some teams now don't have valid insurance. So say you were having an event. I actually think it's reasonable. Anybody who would be coming along to anything I was doing, if they said to me, I'd like proof of your insurance, I'd happily send them it. Do you think that they should have the right to say, we'd like to see your insurance, please?
They have got the right.
A lot of people don't ask for it.
They should, shouldn't they, really?
I did for a couple of years airsoft, and sort of like paintball, but with like BBs. And basically, we didn't tend to ask for their insurance. They gave us the form to say, basically, if you smash your face in with one of the guns, like, you're not going to claim from us. Happy days. But never once in that whole time that I did that did I turn around to the venues and say, is there any chance I can see your insurance? Because we don't do it as individuals, because we don't work like a business mind. We're there for fun. We're there to ask for someone's insurance certificate, might be seen as a bit like, oh, okay. But at the very least, these events people, they're going to have a website. They should have an insurance tab on that website that people can go into,
on there for people to
and
see.
they can see they're with X company, this reference. And if they want to go that step further, they can make a phone call to that company and say, I just need to be sure, because it's public liability. They can make that call and say, there's this reference, this company, and that they can say, actually, we only cover them up to June 2016, or, oh yeah, no problem, they are insured with us. That is a valid certificate. Brilliant, thank you. That is as simple as that, and I think an events team should be made to put at the very least their insurance certificate up there. Maybe not to the point where it's a downloadable document or anything else, but they can obviously put their reference, and then they can have the company that it's done with.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. We've got to find a way to try and build things back up again, because with all the infighting, with guests not sure who to trust, the paranormal community isn't in a best place at the minute, really.
Hasn't been for a long time.
It hasn't been, has it? It's been a bit of a mess, to be fair.
I tell you what doesn't help as well. People, we were talking about this, weren't we? We went to Shrewsbury Prison, and the caretaker or the security guard or whatever he was caught throwing stuff. Do you know what I mean?
God.
That's no good either, is it? Do you know what I mean?
No.
How could you trust that place again to go there?
Precisely. They just need to make a name for it being haunted. So, like, to them, there's no harm in faking these kind of things.
I'm just glad he wasn't with us and he was with a different group.
Yeah, true.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, it was there's been a lot of difficult discussions to run up to this show tonight, because it was like, can't do this, can't do that, can't talk about this and can't talk about that. Because we're not out to upset anybody, but this situation really needs to be addressed.
Definitely.
Something's got to be done. Come on.
You've got to do the uncomfortable work in that sense. Especially in these situations.
Isn't it nice we had to come on you for the uncomfortable one, Kev?
Well, this is the thing. We're both really honest. So
just open our mouths and let the war begin.
If the two of you've got something to say, you're going to say it. So you were the best guest for this show, really. So,
well, to be fair, this is exactly what's needed. Is we can argue all day long about the situations, and obviously the ones you've mentioned without mentioning. You can argue about it all the time, and everyone could be a keyboard warrior about it. But the difference being is there is no actual control of the paranormal world at all. There's nothing there. We said about governing bodies. ASSAP attempted many moons ago to create a course, a government accredited course. It hasn't come through because it's a very difficult thing to do. But just to have a governing body in place for these individual parts. So the SSAP could arrange that, or at some point in the future with a bit more resource, do that for investigations. So actual investigations, so residential investigations, and actually looking at hauntings involving individuals, that kind of things. A governing body can work with the events teams and make sure that they are doing things right. And it's not necessarily about method, but it's more about ethics and ensuring that people are covered when they go into these ideas, when they pay to go to haunted locations, So it needs to be governed. And from that, people can have their little tiffs in the middle, but they'll never explode to the point they have, And it will be like, okay, well, I've spoke to the government body, and together we've managed to come to this agreement. Okay, and it's done. A bit like when you rent a house, you get like the deposit scheme and things like that. The deposit money doesn't go to the agent or the tenant. It
goes into a separate holding, doesn't it?
Precisely, and then they sit there, and if there is a situation, they investigate, and then they decide that actually you deserve 70% back, and you decide you deserve this, and all we need to cover this cost. And if they didn't have that, it would be in pandemonium everywhere.
Right. Wait, you hear this? There's a guy called Keith in the chat room, and he's nominated you to bring the paranormal world from chaos into order. So you've got to sort all this out.
Just line them all up and give them a clip round here. What a responsibility to have.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Kenny Biddle is in the chat room as well, and he said the infighting is, I believe, because there was a shift in mentality from I want answers to I want to be on TV. What do you think, Lee? You agree with that?
Definitely. Everybody wants to be on TV, doesn't they? That's what it seems to be, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to have their own little show.
It is true. You've made it if you've got onto the telly. I'm not sure how it works, but apparently if you do get onto the TV, you've made it, and it's really not true. And to be fair,
it's insane, isn't it? Because you're getting some of these teams are actually paying out their own pockets.
You get
Amazon shows.
They get onto Amazon, and you say it just goes to show. To be fair, just stick with YouTube. It's cheaper. If people actually like you, it'll take off. Don't worry about that. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But to pay money to join Amazon to put your TV show onto that format in an attempt to get yourself out there, it's a bit kind of
it's not.
That's it. Couldn't have a TV show and do it properly because it wouldn't interest people. There wouldn't be nothing.
There'd be nothing to watch.
Excited enough on it for them to watch it.
I think you'd have to have conversation going on at the same time, and then you're not really concentrating on the investigation. So it is madness. I have thought to myself, how can the TV shows do this to make it interesting? There are ways, but unfortunately, the science side of it isn't popular.
Well, these are for entertainment purposes only.
Plain and simple.
That's true.
It's something to remember. I've got team members who are in TV shows, and they are absolutely brilliant investigators. But they won't necessarily follow the same rules they would follow in an investigation when they do a TV show, because it's just not compatible. So they have what we call the ghost hunter side, and they have the investigator side. And the ghost hunter side goes and does the TV shows, and the investigators come and do the investigations.
And you've got to separate the both of them now.
Yeah, that's it.
So I think we're all in agreement, guys, that there seems to be a bit of a trust issue.
Definitely.
Right across the board. Between guests and teams, and it's everywhere, isn't it?
That's it. We're in deep.
So, I have no idea how we're meant to sort that out, but personally, I think all the paranormal teams need to start working together, despite personal differences with anybody. If anybody came to me and said, "Can you help with this?" I would help.
That's it.
And that's what they need to concentrate on.
That's how we should be.
We've already got a good dynamic within a few, 5 or 6 different teams, and we go to locations together because it gives us a chance to go to these locations half the time because there's enough people. Yeah. But in that room, you would have everything from hardcore skeptic to hardcore believer, and every single person in that room can get along. We can talk about our ideas, we can discuss different things that are going on within the paranormal and what we think about them. And you know what? We don't end up in a massive brawl or punch up about it. We take it into account and we carry on, and it's that, and it's given me a lot of hope in the paranormal. Corinne Beeson, she's put it all together, and it's given me a lot of hope for the future of the paranormal, that actually we are capable of doing a lot better, and it isn't a sort of a lost cause in that sense.
Something has to be done, because like Caz have said, it is going round in circles, isn't it? It's come to like a dead stop.
Oh, we about 2-3 years ago we were going in circles, and now those circles have stopped moving and we are completely stagnant. And it's
more than that, yeah.
That's it. Even a lot of the academics who have been involved, have just taken a step back, and I can't blame them. They step back because it doesn't seem to matter how much evidence or research and peer review they do, and to show these situations, people going, no, dowsing rods are real, and it's like, fine, but we've proved again, time and time again, that it's not doing what you think it's doing. No, it's definitely doing that, and I think we've got to be less stubborn.
Well, Rachel's in the chat room, and she says we should always work together. It's the only way we're going to learn. Definitely,
100%. Even if you have severely different viewpoints,
even if you hate each other, you
precisely
you can enough to work together.
You can always learn something. I know, it's
plain and simple. I think everyone I've ever met in the paranormal, I've learned something from at some point. It's one of those situations that you do, and sometimes you either learn how someone without certain points of knowledge can lead down a completely different road. So years ago I used to say were idiots. Like, why don't you get that? It's simple, it's basic, but their belief system stands in the way. At the same time, I've met academics that blow you away with the things they know and the research they can put forward to you and the help they'd give you. So if we can get on. There's nothing stopping us except for a bit of immaturity and yeah.
Bit of ego.
That's it.
Well, listen, we could talk about this all night. We really could, couldn't we?
That's it.
Because there's so many different issues going on at the moment. I mean, but if you could sum it up rightly, if you could sum up what we had to do, what would you say we need to do? Between teams and guests and whatever, what is
more communication? I think is needed, really, isn't it? More communication, being open and willing to learn a bit more from each other.
That's it. Being open-minded, actually open-minded, not open-minded to the spiritual world, but open-minded to everything around you.
Yeah.
Common sense. A lot of common sense is needed, I think.
Oh, that's needed outside the paranormal as well.
That is very true.
That's the world we're coming to now. So.
Well, as we're coming to the end of the show, I need to mention this because I'll be in trouble with the boss if I don't. I know she's listening. But Haunted Histories has liaised with Fright Nights in London, and they've offered to Parasearch Radio listeners only 2 tickets for an investigation at Fort Horstead in the 17th of March, right? So to enter it, you've got to be a member of the Parasearch Radio group, comment on the post to be entered into the draw. If you want to share the draw out, go ahead, share it out. The winner of the 2 tickets will be drawn the 14th of March on Haunted Histories at 9 p.m. So enter the competition. If you can get along and go to that investigation, it's 2 tickets. Just comment on the post and we can enter you into the competition, okay? Lee and Kev, all I can say is thank you so much for coming along today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And thanks for discussing this with me.
Those difficult subjects.
It's actually quite a civilised discussion, actually.
Brilliant.
But everybody, please remember you can follow Parasearch Radio on, obviously, our Facebook page. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter. And please, if you want to listen to any other shows, they're all there on YouTube. Go ahead, listen to them. And all it remains for me to say is thank you for listening tonight. And Lee and Kevin, say good night to everyone.
Good night.
Night, guys.
Good night, and thank you.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.